Chair recognizes to present the minority report, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Before I begin my comments, I would just like for all of you right now that's in the chamber to call your local just text for me your local county administrators and ask them, do we have the funds in our current budgets to be able to purchase the security equipment that we need to be able to sustain House Bill 875. Do that for me as I present my comments. And by the end of my comments, I want to know how many NOs that y'all just received. Representative Wilkerson said it best when he said, in the committee process where I serve on public safety, there were so many residents that came from across this state to bring their concerns about this bill. We had at one time over 60 clergy people in the room. And it is just like the analysis to your children. What do you think about this? They all got up and spoke for and against this bill, more against than for. And it fell on deaf ears. So, what do you think about this bill? We don't think that we don't want it. We don't want to be able to be worried about guns where we're trying to do our sermons on Sunday morning. And so it fell on deaf ears. So at the end, we decided, well, it's okay about all of you all coming to the state capitol. It's okay about we all represent you and we are here to do what you need us to do. But if you come up here and you voice your opinion, and it doesn't matter because we are going to do this anyway. So where is the democracy in that? Now here we have House Bill 875, and it's an unfunded mandate bill. It runs directly contrary to the wishes of our county governments. That's why I wanted you to text your county administrators and ask them, do we have money in our already strained budgets to hire more security officers and more metal detectors? And I guarantee you, out of the 159 counties that we have in this state, you will probably get 90% of them that will text you back, no. House Bill 875 amounts to a little more than an unfunded mandate, and it fails to consider the financial strain placed on our county and local governments. It requires local governments to allow concealed weapons or permitted weapons in most government buildings, unless these buildings have business day securities. The Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, the ACCG, a well-known organization here, has objected to the provisions on the grounds that it will force county governments to take on significantly increased financial burdens. Providing security in our county government buildings is a costly expense, and that expense would have to be shouldered by our county taxpayers for the benefit of the few of us here who wish to carry firearms in buildings. And that expense will be limited to thousands of dollars that we don't have in our county and local budgets to accommodate this bill. The cost of an average metal detector starts at around $16,000. And I have very small counties with very small budgets, and we don't have that kind of money to be able to purchase an up-to-date metal detectors. And we don't have the tens of thousands of dollars in salary and benefits for security officers. We have low budgets in our rural counties, and we barely can sustain with those budgets. And will not be limited to the potentially astronomical costs of civil liabilities and the already skyrocketing insurance industry that we have. By failing to provide local governments with a choice on if they want to allow firearms on government property, this bill, this House oversteps its boundaries if we pass this bill today. There's nothing democratic about forcing the hand of your local governments. We all represent our folks in our local counties. There's nothing democratic in ignoring the wishes of established groups like ACCG. And there's nothing democratic about refusing to allow for amendments to this bill, because this bill needs some changes done to it. It is not a popular bill. House Bill 875 is many things, but the thing I believe in is it is another financial burden being placed on our county governments who are already trying to maintain unlimited budgets. So I stand here today in opposition to House Bill 875, and I ask that you vote no for your county administrators that have already texted you back and say, no, we do not have this in our budgets. You vote against House Bill 875 because it's the right thing to do for your local governments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes for the remaining portion of the minority report Representative Waits. Representative Waits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. I come before you today to speak in opposition to this bill. I stand before you as a licensed permit holder and a proud proponent of the Second Amendment rights. However, the issues of this bill have been well chronicalized. One of the happiest days of my life was being sworn in to serve with each of you. I actually received one of the committee assignments that I requested, which was public safety. And as an emergency manager and a professional, I take it very serious protecting people, the 53,000 people that I serve and the 9 million Georgians that each of us serve. But this bill does not provide a true choice, nor does it really provide an opt-in clause when it comes to houses of worship, bars, or even government buildings. This bill actually places a burden of establishing a firearms policy, and it places that burden on congregations, large and small, to enforce firearms policies, armed with only the extremely weak threat of a misdemeanor, should a carrying individual choose to not comply with that church's wishes. Of course, this bill comes in spite of the fact that many of you in this chamber will remember that on October 2012, at a very, very popular church, World Changers Church in College Park, an angry, not a crazy individual, but an angry individual entered the church and shot an innocent bystander, a churchgoer. And of course, this tragedy occurred before the man responsible was even given a license to carry in that place of worship, before he had a license to bring a deadly weapon in God's house. This bill further places a burden upon bar owners. It puts them in a tough position. Although bar owners could opt out by posting a sign, they run the risk of alienating clientele and incurring potential liability for drunken, gun-toting patrons who are ill-equipped and even are irresponsible to handle a firearm in the event that they're heavily intoxicated. Even those disagreements may turn violent. This bill comes in spite of the fact that not less than a week ago, there was a gunfight outside of the Flowery Branch Bar where one man was left dead. And the responsible man is still on the run today. Both patrons were drunk. Both of them were armed. This happened before either were allowed to carry weapons into a private establishment. I never dreamed that we would be having these conversations. I actually thought that upon being sworn in, that we would come down and have conversations about bringing jobs to the district, healthcare access, and quality educations for our children. I never dreamed we'd have these conversations. It is my belief that House Bill 875 is a license to kill. Not in the legal sense of the word, to be sure, but as a practical people, surely we can recognize the practical implications of our actions here today. It is further my belief that HB 875 would take some of our safest places, the places we hold most sacred, our churches, and allow for deadly weapons and potentially dangerous individuals bearing those arms to sit right beside us in our pews. HB 875 would take guns and allow them to be mixed with alcohol. That's one of the most disturbing provisions of this bill for me. Like many of you, I like my guns. But it would take the responsibility of gun owners and put them in a situation where they will be irresponsible when mixed with alcohol. It would subject dozens of patrons to the potentially actions of a few, the deadly actions of a few. If such tragedies already exist, how can we expect anything but an increase in violence by implicitly sanctioning the drunken actions of individuals who may possess a deadly firearm? John Madison once said that he'd learned to never expect perfect work from imperfect man. I recognize that each of us is imperfect, including myself. And I do not expect HB 75 to be perfect, because we will always have disagreements. But HB 75 expects that every single person that will carry a firearm will be perfect. It expects that each licensed gun owner will be perfect after a few drinks. It expects that imperfect men will never enter God's house in sin. Our laws are never perfect. But imperfections of this bill give rise to the most serious consequences that I cannot sit by in this assembly and leave the safety of our 9 million residents at the mercy of a few. I leave you with this question. Why is it okay to place our children in harm's way? To have armed parishioners in a house of worship? To mix firearms and cocktails? Yet in this house, we enjoy a reasonable level of protection in knowing that our seatmate is not carrying a weapon. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully yield the well and ask each of you to consider your actions. Thank you.
The lady has yielded the well. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 875 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 875. The ayes are 119, the nays are 56. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed.